What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Mind Hiking Podcast. I'm your host, Brody Frye, and today is a beautiful little episode. Happy Wednesday. Hopefully you're enjoying your hump day. Hopefully it's been a good week for you, and we are almost through it. And today's message is going to be a good one, but I go on quite the tangent and have all sorts of examples, and I like episodes like these because I know a lot of people like these more upbeat, faster paced. There's a lot of tangents, but I know some people like that stuff because it keeps their attention better instead of just dragging something out. So, hopefully you guys enjoy this one. I enjoyed recording it, so please enjoy and stay tuned. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Brody Frye, and here we dive deep into difficult questions. We'll map out thoughts, theories, and crazy ideas for the love of knowledge and growth. So, how do we answer some of the mind's toughest questions? This is the Mind Hiking Podcast. Welcome to the podcast and happy Wednesday, everyone. Today I got a cran pineapple juice. Thanks to Katie. I love you. I appreciate you. It's you go into the juice aisle and there's so many fusions now. It's like they got every possible type of combination of juices that you can possibly think of mixed together, and it's amazing. I love it's like a kid's wine section almost. It's like there's just bottles and bottles of this juice that are just different combinations of juices. Like you got the cran grape and like cran apple, or actually now that I think about it, a lot of it is cran something. But like either way, you can get like tropical flavors too that are like strawberry banana or whatever. I don't know, tropical fruit blends, peach, pineapple, and mango, or something like that. There's just tons of combinations. But yeah, today I got cran pineapple, and it's actually really, really good. Because sometimes you get them and they're not the best, or not as good as you expect. And I think what made this better is actually my lovely fiance poured the glass for me. She got it, poured the glass for me, and I didn't know what it was. And, and I had a sip, and, like, actually it was amazing, because I went into it not knowing what to expect, so it was actually really good. So, yeah, and then I probably, if I had to guess, I probably wouldn't have been able to pick out what it actually was, which is another topic to talk about, too. But just how, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it almost changes the flavor when you know what it actually is. But if you don't know what it is, it's like it tastes different. But interesting stuff. I remember, actually, just a little side story. My parents like trying to feed me vegetables and stuff and not telling me what's in it, or not telling me things, and it's good until they tell me what's in it. So they would like try to hide vegetables and stuff, and yeah, it's funny. I don't know, mental things, crazy. But speaking of mental things, we need to, and I say this a lot, get outside. We need to find something to do outside. We need to get outside multiple times a week, because especially nowadays with our indoor jobs, like I learned this the hard way too, because like grew up working on the farm, and it was outside all the time, and I was always such a upbeat, happy, like super happy person, and always had like a really nice tan and always outside and just breathing the fresh air, and then I got an indoor job and just pale all year round and never outside, and And I went for like about a year like that, and it was a rough year. And I didn't even put two and two together, because then the following year we started mountain biking, and then all of a sudden it was awesome. And but then I picked up another new hobby, because like life is amazing and there's so much to do, and I get obsessed with everything. It's like everything that's out there I can find respect and appreciation for, because there's so much beauty in everything. And like people's hobbies or sports or whatever, like you sit me down and you show me whatever it is, and then show me why you like it. Yeah, I'm probably gonna like it too. and especially when it comes down to the technical details, and like the equipment, if there's equipment involved. I love it all. It's so cool. But yeah, I've been outside like daily after work, and starting to get kind of not behind, but starting to lose my backup episodes here, because I've been skipping recording days just because I'm going outside playing in the woods, doing whatever I've been doing, and it's good. It's awesome, because there's so much stressful things in the world, and so much. I talk about connection between people a lot on the podcast, and I mean all of that, and how important it is, and what we're here for is just the impact we leave on one another, and it's all a big test. And the most important thing is when nobody's around or nobody's looking, and just like if just taking care of things and leaving things better than the way you left it. And I guess a story I will share with you guys is, so if you're a common listener on the podcast, I played golf competitively for years, and was pretty good at that. But one of the things that my coach would always say is we would have to fix 2 ball marks on the green before we walked off the green, even if you didn't even hit the green. So, and if you did, you fix yours. So you're always fixing more than what you left. So you're always leaving the green better than you found it. And it's just things like that. Like, that's just a simple golf analogy, but even if it's like you see a plastic bag blowing in the parking lot and you go grab it, and you're walking to the cart return anyways, where there's a garbage can right there, you might as well just pick it up and push your cart into their cart return and throw it in the garbage. And what's the worst that's going to happen? Nobody sees it and you feel good about yourself. That's the worst case scenario. Yeah, that's sounds pretty good to me. And or you might make somebody smile if somebody does see it. If somebody sees you do something like that and you think nobody saw it, but you just did a kind act without thinking that anybody saw it, you might just make somebody's day. You might make somebody smile, and you might give somebody hope. That's a beautiful thing. So anyways, I talk about that kind of concept a lot, but that's not where I wanted to get into. Where I would actually like to go with this episode is, there's examples like that, but we all are living from our own perspective, our own lives. And I think that this language is a punishment, because we can't truly get across what's on our hearts. There's so much. If you're into music, actually, a better analogy might be like the quality of music when you hear it live versus when you hear it on a record versus when you hear it digitally. Like, the quality is not, it like progressively gets worse. Like, nothing can replace live music. And then, like, the diehards all know that records sound so much better than CDs or just like nowadays, just digital. It's just like a digital playback. It's just not the same. There's so because the information is being lost from wavelength to ones and zeros. It's just coding, and it's just not the same. The feeling isn't there. There's so much information cut so that way it can store songs onto a hard drive. To be able to fit so many songs, so much music, so much information onto a hard drive, so much of the filler sound, the background sound, that where you feel it, you don't hear it so much, but you feel it. So much of that is cut just to fit it on a hard drive. And that's it. When you listen to it, yeah, it might sound the same, but you're missing that feeling that it's giving you. You're, like the oomph behind it, what's carrying the music. But it's the deep stuff, the deeper meaning is cut just so that way it can fit onto a hard drive, and that's just for convenience, but it's also an unfortunate thing, and that's why live music is just not replaceable. And sorry about that, guys. Little distraction at the door. I was starting to lose my train of thought there, but I had to pause. We are back. Where I was going with the music analogy is that cutting of the information, that deep information that doesn't seem to really matter, but it really does. That's information you can feel, but it's not. It doesn't sound much different because you can play a song. You can play a song through a cell phone and you can still get the words and you still know what song it is, but it sounds like crap. That's the information being cut. That, like, it's like the quality of sending sounds over a phone call versus a nice set of speakers, or like using a record or live music and you're actually hearing the instruments. So that's like the quality difference, the depth that's being cut. Because to transmit information over a phone line or like through your cell phone, it's through the cell towers, it's not, because you're just using radio frequency then. But for that to happen, so much information is lost, and because it's coded and transmitted. So it's where I was trying to lead up with that is I'm gonna bring it back now. Don't worry. It's the language. You can't get the message across that's on your heart because of the punishment of language. And then to make it worse, we got different languages, and then we got to translate and hope that it's accurate enough, even though there's 100 different ways to say everything, and all of them have slightly different variants, and they all could mean slightly different things, and like maybe a more respectful way of saying it, a more proper way of saying something, a more disrespectful way, or a rude way of saying all the same thing. And then everything in between each one of those. So that's the coding and decoding of language, and the struggles behind that you're cutting, where you don't get the message from the heart. It's not like somebody's soul can reach into your heart and feel what it feels and use that to communicate back and forth, feeling the feelings, because all words are just transmittable messages of feeling. They're just ways of transmitting our feelings, to code our feelings into words and then transmit them by speaking them out into the air. Just literally wireless transmission using sound waves into somebody's ears, into somebody's receiver. and then they decode it in their computer and then play it back in their head. And there's so much information, the depth, that's what I'm talking about. That's the depth that's cut just for the transmission of this information. And it literally is a real thing, because not only that, but some words that I use might mean a totally different thing than those same words to somebody else, just because their perspective is different, or maybe like their father used those words to them and they got a bad taste in their mouth for those words, or it's just like maybe something means more to somebody because it could be the total opposite. Like maybe somebody was in a down position and feeling really bad about themselves, and somebody said some specific words that really resonated with them and spoke with them at one moment, and that word stuck with them. And then I could be saying something to them and use that same word, and what I'm trying to get across is like just something really nice might mean the world to somebody just because of my word choice. So it's like, now you got, with that transmission and the coding and decoding, you also on top of that have the variable of meaning behind each word. So that's why it's so variable. And it's like, that information is so just chaotic, and you can't get the perfect message across. Nobody knows what you're feeling. Even if you portray it through language perfectly, it's not perfect because they can't feel that. All you're trying to do is portray feeling. So we can do the best we can with what we have, and that's what we do. But that's also why there's so much argument. There's so much frustration. That's why people get tired of each other, need time alone, or need time to breathe. And now here we go, Brody, finally bringing it back. That was a long, drawn out explanation, but here we go. We're finally coming around full circle here. But this is where we need to find time to get outside and breathe and reconnect with Mother Earth, Mother Nature, because that information passing back and forth is stressful, and it doesn't always work, and there is arguments a lot. People fight a lot, and you need that space. You need that time. You need that time to get out and do something you enjoy and breathe and be alone. You need to be able to sit in silence. And I don't mean like go distract yourself with putting earbuds in and going for a walk, because that's not doing it. Your mind is still running, thinking about. It's good to let your mind run, but don't pump more information in it while you're trying to relax. That's not going to work. Go out for a walk, but just listen to the birds and let your minds float through like clouds, because you got like a ton of backup storage of thoughts in your mind, and just let them float through. It's like building up pressure. It's like you got like an air canister or something, and it's like building pressure. Each thought is like more PSI being added to I'll just use a tire for an example, because it might be a little easier for people to imagine. But imagine a tire, and each thought you have is 1 PSI. That's pounds per square inch for just people that might not know. But every thought that you have is 1 PSI into the tire, and that varies a lot, but the average tire probably takes 32 to 35 PSI. Katie's car actually takes 39 PSI, and my truck actually takes 70 PSI. But anyways, your thoughts are like PSI being added to the tire. And it's like, how many thoughts can you push to the side before your tire pops? Because you can only fit so many thoughts. You can only push so many thoughts to the back of your mind. And they add up quick. And I'm not saying like, this is just an easy example to understand. I'm not saying that you have 35 thoughts maximum and then your head's going to explode. No, I'm just using this as an easy example. But basically the gist of it is, or maybe think of it like a water balloon. and it's like it stretches, but like you're filling up the water balloon, and it's expanding, and like the flow of water is the flow of your thoughts coming in each and every day with every conversation that you have. Weeks go by. It could even be weeks go by. You have to have a little bit of pressure relief every day, and I think that's when you get to come home, sit on the couch, or you come home and maybe even just sit on the lawnmower and go mow the lawn, but at least you get to sit down and breathe. But or you finally lay down in bed right before bed, and that's basically like, imagine you got the water hose. Now I'm throwing multiple examples at you, but it's like you got the water hose into the balloon, and you kind of like open up the balloon, like the balloon not opening a little bit bigger than the hose, and you start letting out a little bit of that pressure. You start letting out a little bit of that water. Or it's like if you have a valve on your tire or something, and you can just kind of like let off, or even like pull, so you're like filling up your tire with a like compressed air, and it's like you stop that for a little bit, and you kind of like, you go enjoy yourself. That's like letting a little bit of the air out, and you can your thoughts can kind of come to you, and you can think more clearly. And that's why it's like people say sleep on it, or like go take a breather. And what that is to just let that mud in the jar settle. More examples I'm throwing at you. It's like a bunch of mud in a jar of water, filled up with water, with like a half inch of mud at the bottom. And then you shake up that jar, and that's your thoughts throughout the day. All those mud particles, those dirt particles. And then taking a breather is like setting that jar down and just letting it settle again, so you can see clearly, literally see clearly, see through that jar once more. And then you can act clearly, and you can make decisions properly. But that's what I'm trying to get at. All these examples I just threw at you, it's all about finding something to do outside in Mother Nature, breathing that fresh air, getting outside, doing something without putting more information in your mind. Don't listen to anything in your earbuds. Don't be sitting down and having your little breather and scroll on TikTok or Instagram. Don't be taking more information in. No, you need to actually let your mind breathe, or you will hit a breaking point. And that's where depression and anxiety come into play, because I think all of our minds are too stuffed full of information. This is the information age, and our minds need to have that relief valve to be able to process this stuff, because these thoughts build pressure in our minds, and we do need to be able to process this stuff. So you got to be able to find time to go outside, take a breather, listen to the birds, look at the clouds in the sky, feel the wind on your face, do something outside and breathe. Enjoy life. Remember what it's like to enjoy life. Remember what it's like to be outside and breathe and just suck in some clean air and exhale it back out for the plants. And then the plants are there just like breathing in your air, breathing your breath in. But you just gotta let your mind at ease. You gotta let your mind relax, because that miscommunication happens with the coding and decoding, and then everything else in everyday life and the stresses of life. But we need to find time for ourselves. We need to be alone. We need to be able to be comfortable being alone. And a lot of people are scared to be alone because they're so used to being stuffed with so much information. And maybe people's, like if we're going back to the tire example, maybe people's tires did pop, but you're still stuffing information in, but the information is just blowing out the hole now. And now when you stop that, it immediately deflates and you have nothing, and it's uncomfortable and it's scary sitting by yourself knowing that there's nothing going on, or you don't have anything to, like, you feel like you need to be doing something at all times. Like it's uncomfortable for you because you're so used to go. But everybody needs to get used to the breathing, and you'll see how much more efficient you become in life. It seems backwards, but it's not. You gotta find that time to refresh yourself. It's like, if you want another example, how many of these do I gotta throw at you? It's like if you go on vacation and the people that come back from vacation are always so much more efficient and more upbeat and happy and chipper. And that's why they actually started, what was it? Back in... I'm testing myself here with my history knowledge. I think it was shortly after... Actually, I think it was shortly after World War One, in the early 20s, I believe, is when they first introduced lunch breaks for work, because they saw that it increased productivity multiple ways and more efficient than, like, what was amazing. And it wasn't like taken on overnight, because people did argue it, because that seems so backwards. And this is what I'm trying to get across. Why would it be more efficient to stop all of your employees from working for a half hour or for an hour or whatever you get for lunch, and then let them come back and go back to work? How is missing that chunk of work going to increase productivity? It doesn't make any sense, and it didn't to so many people, but it does. It does make sense, because they're coming back more refreshed. Because if you work them all the way through the day, their productivity is like, think of it, they come into the day refreshed and blah, 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 whatever. They come into the day, and then just imagine a chart, and it's just like going down as the time goes on in the day. And by the end of the day, they're just dragging their arms behind them and just not even picking their feet off the ground, just dragging their feet and working like that. You guys can all imagine that. But you get that little break, and you get to fill your belly and get a drink and take a breather, and you come back, and that spikes back up that productivity, and then you start up a little bit higher than you were before. And yeah, it's going to come back down, and it's not going to spike up as much as a full night's rest going home. You're still going to be tired after lunch, but it's a spike from where you would have been if you worked through the entire day. In the average of taking that lunch break, the average productivity done in that day, even with that dead spot of your lunch, is higher than working the entire day through, because your productivity line is going to be dropping down all the way down to as low as it gets by the end of the day, versus, yeah, you might have a little dead spot, but you got a spike there too that just counteracts that average. So that's the mindset behind the lunch break, and that was brought in during the Industrial Revolution. And it took a while for people to accept that, but it works, and we all know it works. Like, could you imagine now working full days through? And sometimes we have to, but you know how you feel at the end of that. And everybody can act like a big tough guy, like, oh yeah, work's work, I can get through that. And I get that, because I did the same thing at the farm. I can handle it. But it sucks. You get done with the day and you're miserable, and you're like, fuck this. And everything sucks. But you get a little break in there, and it increases your productivity, and maybe by the end of the day you feel better, and it's like, oh, maybe I'll go for a walk afterwards, or something like that. You got more energy, and it's just better that way. Same thing. What I'm trying to tell you guys is, it's good, it's healthy to be by yourself for a little bit, and everything in moderation. Everything I tell you, don't pick out and say, oh, but Brody, you said this, or you said this, or that. Everything in moderation. Everything has a balance. And I can't speak for you. I can't speak for what that balance may be for you, because that depends on you and your lifestyle and what you're used to and what kind of things you do, or the pressures or stress you're under. Maybe if you have a more stressful job, then maybe you need a little bit more time for yourself to recover, or maybe a little bit less. Who knows? Maybe you can handle it a little bit more. This all varies, person by person, but the gist is find that balance for you, find what works for you, try different amounts of times of different lengths of breaks, different times being spent outside. Maybe it's 2 days a week, maybe it's 5 days a week, whatever. Maybe it's 7 days a week. That's even better. I don't think you can have too much time outside, but I find that balance that works for you, because we all have things that we need to do. So you can't just vacation your whole life. And even people that don't have to worry about money or are totally financially independent, they still have a job to do. And whether that be taking care of the family or whatever it is. But find that time for yourself. Get outside, enjoy life, and remember to breathe, and just let off some of that relief valve. Just open that relief valve a little bit and remember to breathe. So happy Wednesday, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully it spoke to you. If you like what you're hearing, please give the podcast a 5-star review. I'd really appreciate it, and it really helps out the podcast. Also, if you have a favorite episode, or if you like this one, send it to somebody, because the best way to help this podcast grow is to tell somebody about it. So thank you so much for all your love and support. Really appreciate you guys. Love you all. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next week. Peace out.